everyone. Thought I'd do another little video today, and today I thought I'd talk about riding in the wet because the weather's been really horrible the last few days. So things I found about riding in the wet is obviously the main things, like when you're having your bike lessons, they tell you like it takes much longer to brake, leave bigger distances. That much is so true. And I remember literally the very first day I was out on my own on my scooter. I was riding down this very road and I got overtaken by another scooter in the wet, and he just slid out, just basically for what seemed like no reason. He just had a bit of a low side. He was fine and everything, but that was a stark eye-opener. And both times I've crashed have both been in the wet, so I'm always a little bit more wary, as you would expect when it's damp. You get all these nasty little oil and diesel spills just decide to rear up out of the road and ruin your day. Another thing that I've discovered that is extremely treacherous in the wet are manhole covers. The amount of times they've almost had me on my back is untrue. Especially if you've come to a stop at some lights or something and your back wheel is sitting on one that you don't realise, and then you give yourself a bit of a spirited getaway, your back's gonna kick out like and that's not always fun. This is from my own sort of personal perspective as well of I don't know, for some reason when it gets wet I have less confidence turning the bike on the left side than on the right. I'm still fairly happy to lean it in on the right when going around a corner or something, but the left, it just always not quite as confident in it. And I guess that's mainly from experience on my CBR. I haven't really had much of a chance to do the same on this R6 yet, but the R6 does feel a lot, I guess because of the weight, more planted to the road. It feels like you can give it a bit more beans and it will be as happy, but the CBR only had skinny little tyres, so it wasn't quite as happy in the wet. Other things I find very annoying about when it gets wet is your visor almost inevitably always mists up, which is a real hassle. Thank you. One of the main things I have to say I dislike about riding in the wet is that I don't have any waterproof boots at the moment. So especially if I'm going to work, is sitting in the office at work with wet feet all day is just the worst feeling, and it makes your boots smell as well. So I've resolved myself to get some waterproof boots, and to if I know it's going to rain, thank you, always take a spare pair of socks at least, if not shoes as well. So I ride my bike all year long because it's my main form of commuting to work, so I've ridden it in snow, which isn't fun, rain, which is pretty much every day here, and occasionally sun, which is the most fun. Actually, there is one thing I have to add about when it is raining. When I do get to work, having a cup of tea and a piece of toast is just the best feeling. It almost makes it all worthwhile. So, I've got a bit of a story about why it's good to invest in some decent wet weather gear. It was last winter. I was riding back to my parents' stuff, which is about an hour away from where I live, on my little Honda for a dentist appointment. And before I set out, it looked fine, but within about 10 minutes of setting out, the heavens opened, and because I was on my learner's license, I couldn't use the motorways, so I'd take the back roads. So the hour's journey actually took 2 hours, and it was just 2 hours of being. It was just constantly heavy rain. It was horrible, and I had some gear, like I had my textile suit on, so pretty wet, to be honest. I mean, my textile suit is waterproof, but I mean, this was just, it was intense. It was like having a shower, basically. That's what it felt like anyway. So I was just absolutely drenched. But the worst part, like I was saying earlier, was just my feet. My boots just were filling up with water, literally. And by the time I got home and tipped them upside down, it was like Niagara Falls coming out of my boots. It was pretty miserable. So I vowed to myself to get myself some decent wet weather boots. So it's just flipping typical, you know. It's fine until 10 minutes after you leave, and then, you know, you're past the point of no return, and there's no going back. I think that's been about the one time where I wished I'd been in my car rather than on my bike. It's an interesting line. So you got any interesting stories about riding in the wet, or any tips or anything I've missed that you think people should know? Let me know, and I'll add it on. Thanks for watching, and hopefully see you again soon.